as written by Swami Saradananda. Today being a Thakur's happy birthday, the reading chosen is about his parents having the divine vision before he came to the family. As we will go through the passages written by Swami Saradananda ji, may Thakur help us to meditate on his divine birth, is our prayer. Sometime during the winter of 1835, Khudiram visited Varanasi and Gaya. It was the beginning of Chaitra, middle of March, when he reached Gaya after paying obeisance to Vishwanath, the Lord of the universe at Varanasi. He came to Gaya at this time of the year, probably because he knew that the spirits of his ancestors would have immense satisfaction if worship was offered at that holy place during spring in the month of Chaitra. He lived there for about a month, performed all the ceremonies according to the scriptures, and at last offered worship at the lotus feet of Gadadhar Vishnu. Because of his great faith, Khudiram experienced unspeakable peace and satisfaction on thus performing the prescribed obsequial rites in honor of his ancestors. Having fulfilled to the best of his capacity his obligations to his forefathers, he was now free from all anxiety. Then the thought came to him that the divine Lord had made it possible for an unworthy person like him to accomplish all this, and his grateful heart overflowed with such a feeling of humility and love as he had never experienced before. Peace and joy were with him all that day and at night also. Scarcely had he fallen asleep when he had a dream. He saw himself in the holy temple in the act of offering worship to his forefathers at the divine feet of Gadadhar. He even saw his ancestors in luminous celestial bodies joyfully accepting the pindas and blessing him. He could not control his emotion at seeing them after what seemed a very long time. With tears in his eyes and a heart overflowing with devotion, he bowed down to them and touched their feet. The very next moment, he found that the temple was filled with a divine light as was never seen by him before. His forefathers were standing in the temple on both sides in a reverential attitude with their hands folded, worshipping a wonderful divine being seated happily on a beautiful throne. He had a luminous body, green like the color of new durba grass. Looking at Khudiram with benign, affectionate eyes, he beckoned him. Hardly conscious of what he was doing, Khudiram drew near and, full of devotion, prostrated himself at his feet in worship and uttered hymns in praise. Pleased by his worship, that divine being addressed him thus in a sweet voice, Khudiram, your extraordinary devotion has made me very happy. I bless you. I shall be born as your son and be the object of your loving care. On hearing these words, strange even for a dream, Khudiram's joy knew no bounds. But the very next moment, the thought struck him now, how being so poor, he could possibly feed and give proper shelter to such an exalted being. This made him exceedingly sad, and in a voice choked with emotion he said, "No, no, Lord, I am not worthy of such a blessing. Is it not enough that thou hast blessed me by graciously revealing thyself to me and wishing to be born as my son? If thou wert really to be born as my son, what service can a poor man like me render?" Hearing these words, full of pathos, that celestial being seemed to become even more gracious than before and said, "Do not fear, Khudiram. I shall relish whatever you give me to eat. Let my desire be fulfilled." Khudiram had not the heart to say no. Conflicting emotions like joy and sorrow assailed him with so much force that he could hardly contain himself, and he lost consciousness. This broke his dream. His believing heart was at last convinced that since a divine dream must come true, some great soul would soon be born in his house. He was destined, even at that advanced stage, to see again the face of a new child. He then decided not to speak of that remarkable dream to anyone till it had actually come to pass. On his return home, Khudiram did not tell anyone about the strange dream he had had at Goya, but waited to see what would happen. The first thing he observed was the wonderful change that had come over Chandra Devi. Khudiram noticed, as a result of her unreserved devotion to the gods and the joy born of her intimate relationship with them, the simple-hearted Chandra became more trusting than ever. She could no longer suspect anyone nor look upon another as a stranger. He thought, the selfish world will never appreciate such guilelessness. On the contrary, she will be called silly or mad or something like that. Therefore, he looked for an opportunity to warn her. It was not long before this opportunity came. The simple Chandra could not keep back a single thought from her husband. One day she told him, "When you were away, I had a strange dream in which I saw a luminous being lying on my bed. At first, I thought it was you, but soon realized that no human being could be like that. Then I woke up, but the thought persisted that the luminous being was still in my bed." And she further elaborated, "On another occasion, when I was speaking with Dhani in front of the temple of the Jogis, I suddenly saw a divine effulgence come from the holy image of the great god Shiva, fill the temple and rush to me in waves. Taken by surprise, I was on the point of telling Dhoni about it when all of a sudden the light engulfed me and swiftly entered into my body. Stunned with wonder and fear, I fell down unconscious. But I have the feeling that the light has been in my womb ever since." As he listened to everything that Chandra said, Khudiram remembered his own dream at Goya. Then, reassuring her in various ways, he said, "Do not henceforth speak about such visions and experiences to anybody except me. Be free from all anxiety and know for certain that whatever Raghubir shows by his grace is for our good. During my stay at Goya, Godadhar revealed to me in a supernatural way that his son would be born to us. These words of her godlike husband set Chandra Devi's mind at rest, and obeying him, she henceforth depended entirely on Raghubir. Time rolled on. Completely surrendering themselves to Raghubir, Khudiram and his virtuous wife spent their days in the expectation of beholding as their son the divine being whose auspicious presence had already filled their lives with deep devotion. Chandradevi was near her time, and her heart was filled with a celestial joy as she prepared the daily food offering for Raghubir. But in her body there was a feeling of great lassitude. Then suddenly the thought came that something might happen at any moment, and that if she should be delivered just then, there would be nobody in the house to prepare the offerings. What was she to do? Alarmed, she communicated her thoughts to her husband. Khudiram put her mind at rest, saying, "Fear not. Surely he who is now in your womb will not by his birth become a hindrance to the worship and service of Raghubir. Do not be anxious. Certainly you will be able to manage the service of Raghubir today. I have already arranged for the service from tomorrow, and Dhoni has been asked to sleep here from tonight." At this, Chandra felt a new strength in her body and cheerfully went on with her household duties. It happened exactly as Khudiram had said. The midday and evening offerings to Raghubir and the other services to him were finished without any hitch. Khudiram and Ramkumar went to bed after taking their night meals, and Dhoni came and lay in the same room with Chandra Devi. It was some 10 minutes before dawn that Chandra Devi felt the first pangs of labor. Dhoni helped her to the lying-in room, and there, almost immediately, she gave birth to a male child. After rendering the necessary help to the mother, when Dhoni turned her attention to the baby, she was surprised to find that it had disappeared from the place where she had kept it. In alarm, she took the lamp to look for the child and found that it had rolled down the ground, covered with blood and slime, into the hollow fireplace and was lying there with its little body adorned with ashes and still not crying. Dhoni tenderly picked up the child, washed it, and looking at it in the light, wondered at its beauty and its size. It looked like a 6-month-old infant. At the sacred solemn hour before sunrise, the sound of the conch filled that humble cottage where Khudiram spent his pious and austere life, and proclaimed to the world the advent of a great soul. Ascertaining the signs of the zodiac under which the child was born, Khudiram, well versed in astrology, found that the boy had come into the world at an especially auspicious moment.